We need an impromptu tech talk for a second. So I don't know how much I can speak about malicious incompetence because I don't feel like I necessarily know a tremendous amount about it. I don't feel like I have a tremendous amount of experience with it. But what I can say is that I think that people do the thing that was described here to themselves all the time. When you half-ass it to prove you're incapable of doing something right, even though you're capable of doing it on your own, you didn't have a person's support. So I think that people all the time will sort of like they'll make self-fulfilling prophecies. So they will, go into a situation thinking that they are incapable of doing it, and therefore and so and going in with that attitude affects the way that they do it. And it's cringe because it sounds like I'm saying like if you just believe in yourself then you can do it, but like there is scientific evidence that if that the mindset that you go into something with affects how it's going to how it's going to go. So for instance, with antidepressants, they have found that over 50% of the efficacy of antidepressants is placebo. So that's not to say that like antidepressants are like a scam or that they don't work, because they do, but it is to show how powerful the mind's perception is. So like when you take an antidepressant, even if you know that that a large part of it is placebo, if you believe that it is going to help you, it is far more likely to help you. And so similarly, like if you go into a situation saying like, hey, I believe that, I believe that I can do this, I think that I can do this, then it is far more likely that you will be able to do it. But what happens all the time is that like our mind makes a calculation of how likely we are to succeed at something. Our mind is doing this constantly. So like, the example that I hear all the time, the example that I hear from like some of my mentors and stuff is like, why don't you go into your backyard and look for buried treasure? Technically, there could be buried treasure in your backyard. Why don't you do it? The reason why you don't do it is because your mind makes a calculation that says, hey, this is super unlikely that it's going to be the case, so it's not worth the effort. And so that is like important for human beings to have, because otherwise we would just be doing like a whole bunch of like nonsensical things all the time. We need that like effectiveness calculation, but at the same time you have to be careful about like the line that you draw, because a lot of people will stretch that out and draw that line like way too far out, where all of a sudden like somebody asks them to wash the dishes and they're like, oh, like their mind makes the calculation like, oh, like I'm not going to be good at that, and then they do a bad job washing dishes and fulfill that prophecy for themselves. And so what I have found to be really amazing in this sort of within this sort of idea is you will be amazed what you can get done if you just start. So something that I'll sometimes do is I'll be like, okay, I only have like, let's say I only have like 15 minutes, okay? And my mind is telling me like, oh, like don't start anything because you only have 15 minutes and you're not going to get anything done. And I'll be like, all right, brain, bet. And I'll set a timer for 15 minutes and I'll just start doing shit. Like, you don't have to like know what you're doing necessarily. Just start doing shit and you will be amazed what you can get done. It is mind-blowing what you can get done. So like for instance, on my lunch, I remember one time, so I have an hour for lunch, okay? And one time Birdie was downstairs and I was doing stuff while Birdie was downstairs. And I made and ate lunch. I took out the trash, I washed the dishes, and I think, oh, and then like I sat down and like had like a cupcake for dessert or something. And Birdie just like stood there and was like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "What?" And she was like, how do you get all this stuff done? How do you do all of this?" And I told her that what I have learned is that it is amazing the amount that you can get done when you don't think about how much time each thing is going to take. So like by all means organize yourself and like, make a list of tasks that you need to get done, but then just start doing them. And whether you run out of time or not, you will get more done than if you were like, well, I'm not going to start now because, it's 15 minutes away. And then, yeah, like as for I don't know, as for this idea that like people will weaponize their incompetence in order to not work, I guess that I can see people doing that. The thing that I struggle with is how do you know when they're doing it intentionally or when they are doing it unintentionally. So I think that like in a situation like that, I would call attention to it. Like I would just say, "Hey, I've noticed that sometimes when I ask for help in like the kitchen or whatever, or like, to do the dishes, that oftentimes you will say, I can't do it because I don't know how. And I'm a little bit confused. I don't know how you are ever going to be able to help. I don't know how you are ever going to be able to do it if you don't start. So like I'm happy to help you figure out how to do it, but like you have to start. So like if you feel like, oh, like I don't know how to do the laundry, so like I'm not going to do it, like get started, and then when you run into trouble, feel free to ask me questions. I'm more than happy to like answer any questions that you may have and help you through it. But get started yourself. That's something honestly that my mom taught me. Like I would try to do that all the time when I was younger. Like my mom would ask me to do something, I'd be like, I don't know how to do it, mom, and she'd be like, well, get started. And then if you need any help, I'll help you through it. And so I learned how to just get started. Um, Questions. Well, that's my impromptu tech talk. I'm gonna scroll back in chat and catch up. Let me see. Uh, okay. Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna put music back on. I wish my brain would let me half-ass things. Thanks, trauma. So that's where I would say start with training wheels activities. So like, this is something that I talk to my clients about a lot. For my day job, I'm a mental health coach. This is what I do for my day job. So this is what I talk to my clients about all the time. Is if you can't take a bite, if you can't like if you know. Talking to like sitting down and having a conversation with your mom that traumatized you. I'm just random example that is not specific to anybody. I'm just throwing out a random example. Is too big of a bite, start smaller. Start with like a conversation that still feels a little scary, but that if like it's uncomfortable, but it's safe. And so like if you can't half-ass washing the dishes, find some small thing, some tiny little thing that you can half-ass, like Worm, because I know you a little bit. What one thing that comes to mind is like try half-assing a drawing. Like try half-assing a sketch, and it doesn't even have to be like for your work or anything. Just like sit down and try to like purposefully half-ass something that you draw, and notice all of the feelings that come up as you do that. Yeah. They know they're completely capable of washing dishes, but they don't want it. They don't want it be doing them, and they feel insulted / burdened that they were even asked. So they don't rinse them before putting them in the dishwasher, and forget to actually put soap in. So the other party has to do them again the right way. Yeah. So yeah, I think that the only thing that I like have to suggest there is just communication, just sort of calling out the behavior, just saying like, hey, I'm noticing that this is happening, and it makes it really hard for me to sort of like exist in relationship with you. Oh no, I'm not skeptical that it happens. I totally believe that it happens. I've witnessed it. I think that it's just hard. I think that it's hard to tell when it is weaponized and when it is just like, how do I say this? I think that that men have like generational misogyny bred into them. I think that it's a huge issue where men don't even realize that they are doing things that are misogynistic or sexist or whatever. And so I think that men do this all the time. But I think that calling out the behavior in a way that says like, hey, you're doing this on purpose to hurt me, is only going to set them off on the defensive. And isn't like, even if it's true, it's just like, it's not gonna, in my experience, it's not gonna move you toward your goals, you know? Yeah, and like if they were like doing it before and stopped doing it when you entered the picture, then I think it's a conversation of like, hey, I know that you're capable of this because you lived your whole life before me, and now all of a sudden, like, it's not happening and I'm having to do it, and I'm just a little confused at what's going on there. Like, do you expect me to take care of the dishes because I'm a woman? Is that what's going on? And just like, try to understand, because in my experience, when you come from a place of like trying to understand what someone is going through, if they are bullshitting, their arguments will very quickly fall apart. Very quickly, because it's not based on any actual foundation. What if a person gets angry or annoyed if you ask? Then you can go up one more level. Then you can say like, whoa, like I'm not trying to like attack you. This is something that I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with the fact that it feels like I always have to do the dishes, because either I do them or they end up not getting done well, and so then I have to redo them, and it's more work for both of us. So like, I'm just trying to figure this out. I don't know what is it that is making you angry in this situation. I'm trying to work with you on this, because I assume that the person that is the person that is doing this to you in most situations is going to be someone you care about. Because if it's not, then like, I mean, fuck them, right? And I mean, if you're stuck in an abusive situation, that's a whole bigger can of worms. That's way bigger than just somebody, you know, doing a shitty job washing the dishes. I shouldn't have to help a 28-year-old man do laundry when he was fully capable before I came along. Right. I agree. I mean, like, if he is actually fully capable of doing laundry, then it's a different conversation. Saying like, you know, I know you did laundry before I came along. Why is it a problem now? Yes, you have a minute. My sister has severe OCD, so she has real issues with starting things that's out of her routines. That makes sense. Nine out of 10 times they get pissed, accuse you of treating them like a child, idiot, etc. They don't want to learn. Yeah, so like, I think that I would question my relationship with that person if that was the case. You know, like, I'm confused. You're saying that you don't know how to do it. I'm offering to help and you're getting pissed at me? That seems weird to me. I'm not trying to treat you as a child. If I didn't know how to do something that I thought that I should do, and you did, I would ask you for help. Because this is some kind of partnership. Whether it's romantic or friend or business, this is some kind of partnership. So I'm a little confused why you're getting pissed at me. And then, like, if they just explode on you, you're like, okay. And, like, disengage from that relationship. I have an issue with a person. I know that if I try to call them out, their behavior, or tell them something that makes me upset, they go into defense mode or we get into a big argument over it. It's often we argue over small things that's not even important, and I hardly get to have a word in. Oh man, so this is it's how do I say this? It makes my heart hurt a little bit, and also at the same time is not surprising to me how many people suffer with this kind of thing. And I think that it comes down to a combination of communication and setting boundaries. And I think that a lot of people are fine at fine at the initial communication, but then when it comes to actually enforcing the boundary, that's when it gets really hard. And that's fair. That's totally fair, because enforcing boundaries is fucking hard. Yeah, so it's not hard to tell from a femme stance of relationship is pretty obvious when we're put into our box with feigned failure of a task. Yeah. I just, like... I think that it is a... I don't think that men should do this, obviously. I think that it's not good that men do this. And I, as much as I can, in many, many, many ways in my life, work to hold men accountable and try to sort of, like, raise EQ and sort of, like, help men to sort of redefine their gender role. And at the same time, I think that it's also important that, like, women aren't just left waiting around for men to, like, fix this issue. And so, like, if you are in a relationship with a man that does this kind of shit, I'd encourage you to communicate about it, to set boundaries about it. And if they continually violate those boundaries, then leave the relationship. And obviously, like I said, that's not always possible because of, like, abusive situations, things like that. But that's a whole other issue. Something that ends up not being worthwhile to talk about because of the constant strife. Yeah, so, like, if it's an issue that continually comes up and, like, never gets fixed, then that begs the question, do you want to be in a relationship with this person? My house, whoever cooks doesn't have to clean up. It's a win-win. It's a nice system. No, I mean, I totally get how, like, crazy making it is. 100%. Because, like you said, like, it sounds like a gaslighting tactic. And gaslighting is an abusive tactic. And so what I would encourage to people that are in abusive relationships is to get out of them. Now, that I understand that that's not always possible, but if we're talking about an abusive relationship, then we're playing by a different set of rules. Yes, we have started Jackbox. We just got distracted. Welcome back, Pidgey. Oh, I don't think I wasn't saying it's not all men. I hate that response. I think that men in general have a lot of work to do, and I am doing everything in my power to try to help that. But in the meantime, like I said, I don't want women to be left just waiting around for that. I once had a whole-ass grown man go outside and stomp around and throw his shoes over me, asking him to put his own underwear in the wash. Yeah. Is this the previous roommate worm? Hey, what's up, Slayer of Dragon? Good to see you. What are we talking about? We're talking about malicious incompetence. I got screamed at to wash dishes 2 days after a major surgery because he didn't want to do them. I had spent the week leading to my surgery cleaning the rest of the house spotless. I told him repeatedly all he needs to do is wash the dishes. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a really, really terrible relationship. Somebody is screaming at you right after a surgery because you're not washing the dishes after you worked really hard to take care of the house, to like prep the house beforehand. Sounds like a really awful relationship, and I'm really sorry that you were in that. My biggest issue is that I have asked to communicate calmly, gently with low voices, but the person says to them it feels infantilizing. Well, I think it's talking like adults. Yeah, it's really frightening. It's really unfortunate and frightening how rampant the lack of ability to like navigate relationship and communication a lot of men are. My old roommate would full-on throw entire day fits when it was his day to do dishes, 8 hours. I ended up just doing them because his hissy fits triggered the shit out of me. It's so gross, this assumed task list we're supposed to do. Yeah, so Worm, like, sometimes you just gotta do what I'm hearing a lot of y'all talk about is that, like, when you're stuck in an abusive relationship, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do to survive, and it may not be the sort of like ideal, you know, the ideal thing, because like you can't do the ideal thing because you just have to survive, and that is 100% valid. It fucking sucks, but it's super valid, and I think that that's a lot of what we deal with in mental health anyway. Is things that we had to do to survive that then later in life become maladaptive. So, for instance, and I'm not saying that this is the case with any individual here, but for instance, if you have been in situations where, you know, you have had to sort of deal with malicious incompetence because it was, it was an abusive relationship that you were stuck in. I think that the really important thing is to evaluate when that is still true, and like when it becomes patterning. Because if it's very easy, and this is not this happens with everyone, myself included, that we all do things throughout our lives in order to survive, and then later in life they become maladaptive, and we have to sort of like, we have to identify and break those patterns. So like, for instance, with me, I have a pattern where, you know, like I have been abandoned by a lot of my friends, whether, you know, like and I may have played a part in that as well, but whatever the reasoning, I've lost a lot of my friends. And so now when I enter into friendships, I'm constantly afraid that my friends are going to leave me, my friends hate me, and the closer I get to someone, the more afraid that I get that they secretly hate me and are going to leave me, and then I'm like a burden to them. And so part of my personal mental health journey is like rewriting that narrative for myself, of like working with my, like, you know, younger self or whatever, to be like, it is perfectly valid that those things happened in the past and that they hurt you tremendously, and now things are different, and you have a different set of tools. There are different people in your life, and we can exist again with these people. And so similarly, like, you know, if you were in a lot of situations where people would scream at you to like do the dishes when you just got out of surgery, I'm just taking the example that Fox used, asking yourself questions like, is this still the situation that I'm in? And if it is, thinking about like, is it possible to get out of it? And if it's not, then trying something different, so that you don't have to just keep suffering with the same kind of patterns. Because trust me, I totally do that. I totally get stuck in those sort of patterns too. I think everybody does. Yeah, nothing is worth staying in an abusive situation, but it's also, it is also not always possible to leave. There are a whole lot of reasons, emotionally, like financially, physically. There are a whole lot of reasons why sometimes it's just, it can either feel or actually be impossible to leave an abusive relationship. And so I always try to come at that with a certain amount of reverence, a certain amount of like, we gotta take this at your pace, because I can say just leave your abusive relationship, but it's way harder than that. Thank you for the sticker. Appreciate that.
Take it from me, I've learned my lesson. She gave everything, she was such a blessing, but from day to day, she would change her ways. Give me her love, then she'd take it away, take it away, take it away. Just like the reaper, thought she was the one for me, turned out she was a sleeper.
I do want to say I'm hell blessed that my current partner and I are able to communicate our needs and what we need help with. It's very nice, even though sometimes my trauma brain thinks otherwise. How trust good things. Totally. And I'm really glad to hear that, Worm. Time to feed my cat. I'm in that process right now. Good for you. Good for you, Worm. Random good thing, but someone just DM'd me telling me they simp over the TikTok I posted, and that made me smile. Wait, hold on, let me see it. Let me see it. Where is it? Here it is, here it is. Stuff. That's pretty cute. That's pretty cute. Damn. Damn. Oh my god. Oh my god. Looking good. Looking good. Toaster, thank you for the sticker. I appreciate it. For the record, I did eventually get out of that situation. I was homeless for 2 years. I had to give up my ESA cat, my therapist, and my job to get away. I literally left with nothing but a car because it was that or I was going to die. But it isn't fair to blame a victim in any way for their abuse. Totally. Totally. I think that an expression that I've come to really like is that and I don't know that it would necessarily apply to abuse, but an expression that I've come to really like is that mental illness is not a person's fault, but it is their responsibility. So, you know, similarly, like, yeah, anyway. Ooh, Slayer of Dragon playing an ad. All right, non-subs. Sorry if there's any important conversation. Super cute worm. Super cute. Yeah, that's Worm. All right. Are we okay? Can we get a cuddle pile in chat? This was a tense conversation.
I've learned my lesson. She gave everything. She was such a blessing, but from day to day, she would change her ways.
Yeah.
Give me her love.
I think that's one of the biggest things. Maybe just like a takeaway from this talk. Maybe like if it's okay, we can sort of like lay this one down. You know, like sort of lay this to rest and just sort of like a takeaway. I think that if you have a friend or a loved one that is in an abusive situation, the number one best thing that you can do is just be there to support them in whatever way they need. Because one thing that saying like, oh, like just leave can do, even though like it offering solutions is like a natural human instinct. When we see somebody else has a problem, we want to like help them to solve it. And even though it comes from a very good place, it can actually strangely be very invalidating. Because there's a difference between what's the word? The first word is validation. I'm trying to think of what the second word is. Oh, there's a difference between validation and reassurance. So reassurance seems like it comes from a good place. When someone is like, I'm stuck in an abusive situation, there's nothing that I can do to get out of it. Saying like, no, you can get out of it. You can do anything that you put your mind to, like, comes from a good place and seems like it would be comforting. But in reality, for the person that is stuck in the situation, it can just make them feel more alone. And so focusing on validation and saying like, hey, that sounds incredibly like that sounds horrible, and like I can totally understand why in that situation it would, you know, like it would feel like you couldn't get out of that situation. Why it would be so fucking hard to get out of that situation. I totally get that. It sounds really tough. And strangely, that can actually be more empowering than offering a solution. I'm gonna go hug my husband. Yeah, everybody go, like, give yourselves a hug, give each other a hug, all the things. Just be there, just listen. Might not be ready to leave, and that sucks, but it's okay. Your support in a way they can process will help them along, 100%. They don't mean it that way, but that's how it makes you feel. Well said. Well said. I gotta go kiss my puppy. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I am really, really proud of all of you. I just want to, like, I want y'all to take a second. I want y'all to take a second to look at yourselves and be proud, because there was a lot of high emotion. There was a lot of high emotion in this conversation. This conversation had a lot of stakes to it, and y'all navigated it really well, and I'm really proud of you. So thank you for making this a place where people can express their views, and like it's, you know, like it's safe, and we can talk about heavy stuff like this without it like blowing up in people's faces. So good job. I'm very proud of all of you. I'm very proud of all of you. And I know that there are multiple people in this chat that because of things that they've been through, like emotional regulation is very challenging. And so, like, I'm really, really proud of all of you. I want y'all to all give yourself head pats, because you deserve them. Exclamation point head pats at chat. Do it. Excellent. Perfect. Wait, do I have... we need like good boy and good girl commands too. I don't know what we would do with good boy and good girl commands, but we need those. So I think that at this point, the game may have disconnected,